What up? What up? Happy Friday, and welcome to the Faith Unbuttoned podcast. I'm your host, Pastor K. And just to remind you, this is an extension of Never Alone Christian Center, as we like to call NAC, at NAC Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and our website right below, neveralonecc.org. Thank you guys for rocking me once again on this beautiful, beautiful Friday in the DMV area, more specifically the Baltimore area. And I'm so excited as usual to roll out new information and to push forward not only the gospel of Jesus Christ, but also just to bring something fresh, something new to the movement of the gospel of Jesus. As I always say, and the mission and the goal of the ministry is to make faith transparent and relevant to everyday life. And we've been rocking with this podcast since April, and it has been a success, and I'm excited just to continue to push forward. But tonight, we're airing, this is episode, I think, 15. We're going to do a recap of everything that we have covered since April, all the topics that we have discussed, and we're going to wrap up season 1 of the Faith Unbuttoned podcast. I'm so excited to close it out with a wrap-up session because I'm more excited to push forward into our second season. And during that season, it is my plan to bring on guests to the podcast and discuss some very interesting topics that you will have to stay connected to our social media platforms, that you can get that information early and get the information before we roll it out. But nevertheless, thank you for helping us push along the Faith Unbuttoned podcast. And thank you for not only supporting the podcast, but supporting the Christian Center at Never Alone Christian Center. Just a reminder, if you would like to financially support the ministry or the podcast or NAC Media, you can visit the website below at neveralonecc.org. Click on the tab or the icon that says Give. 4 ways you can give. Right from the website, you can give on the Tithely app, which can be found in your Apple Store and your Google Store. Simply search Tithely. Also, you can give on PayPal at NAC Media is the handle for that. Or you can give via CashApp, $NAC Media. Thank you in advance for your support, your financial support, but more importantly, thank you for your shares, your like, your subscribe, your hearts, your comment. Those are the things that bring joy to me as the pastor, knowing that I am actively engaging in the lives of people. People are receiving and people are changing. All right, enough of the business. So if you've been rocking with us from day one, we have covered several interesting topics. And again, this is a recap. Keep in mind, you can always stream the podcast, any podcast, from the website. You can stream it from YouTube, and I'll also have them up on the church Facebook, as well as my personal Facebook at Never Alone Christian Center, or at Pastor K or Kenton Wiley on Facebook. But YouTube is definitely the hub. The hub on YouTube at NAC Media. You can grab Sunday messages, Wednesday Behind the Scripture, the prayers, the podcast is all right there laid out for you. And they are also structured via playlists as well. So don't feel bad if you missed anything. You can grab them. If you don't want to watch the video, you can also grab the audio version on Spotify. You can grab it on the Anchor.fm app or anywhere you choose to get your podcast. Just search the Faith Unbuttoned podcast. All right, so our first topic in a recap that we covered was, I love him, but he's lazy. I love him, but he's lazy. And in this particular topic, we covered several various points. But what I wanted to drive home to you guys is that you can be married in a relationship with your husband, or you could be in a relationship and you're leading toward marriage, and you absolutely, without a doubt, love your husband, love your man friend, your partner. You love them without a doubt. But at the end of the day, as we said, they're just lazy. So we went over several methods on how to handle lazy men. A lot of times we said that men don't realize that they are lazy. A lot of times as women, the expectations may not have been laid out clearly. They have not been made out where he understands them at the level that you understand them. So what happens is if a man doesn't understand something clearly, it makes it difficult for him to transition that lack of understanding into action. So what we drove home in that particular teaching, I love him, but he's lazy, was communication. There has to be communication. And we went through several different points on communication. I was taking information from a book that I wrote that that is available on Amazon, and I presented that book to you all, saying that we barely talk anymore. It's all about communication, and that book helped us move our marriage, move our relationship to a place where we can talk to one another, that we can bring peace to the home, that you can hear your husband out and the husband can hear you out as the wife. But it all comes down to communication. You cannot get mad at your man or at your husband if there is no communication. You just can't come in, kick the door in, and be like, I see the dishes in the sink again, the floors are dirty, the beds are not made, the grass hasn't been cut, etc., etc. And we're upset. But how can we be upset if we haven't communicated that information to our man, to our husband, on his being lazy? And we say we have to do stuff in love. You just can't come out and be like, oh, you lazy, you don't do nothing around here. No. We have to approach the situation with love. And in that particular discussion, we gave several examples on how to approach your husband or your man or your relationship in love. So we went for several weeks on I love him, but he's lazy. So make sure you go back and check that out if that was a topic that you were in love with or you had thoughts on. And then we moved on to I love her. I love her, but she's lazy. And then we transition to the wife. We transition to the spouse. We transition to our lady friend. And we also hit on the same similar points of communication. In those particular episodes, I think they were episodes 5 and 6 of what I have here on my notepad, I brought my wife on. And then my wife was able to give us a perspective. Actually, it's episode 5. My wife was able to give us a perspective on the idea of a woman being lazy in the household. And during that particular discussion, she was able to break down how the man should communicate that information to her, how he can do it in love, how he can do it without offending her, how can he do it without hurting her or making her feel some type of way. And we talked about that in detail, and you definitely want to check that out if you are a husband or if you are a man and you're looking toward marriage, but you know that the woman that you love, the woman that you are looking to marry, or the woman that you're married to, you know, just accept it, that she is lazy. Okay? She is lazy, but you have to approach her in kindness. You have to approach her in love. Check out episode number 5 and get a woman's perspective from my wife, Miss Chiffon Wiley. She came on. We had fun that episode where she laid it out on how a man can talk to his wife about being lazy. And again, it all came down to it. Once we finished up all the glitz and glamour, once we finished up all her thoughts and my thoughts, it came down to a single term: communication. Communication. You're always going to hear me talk about communication, because if I can't communicate with you as a pastor to the sheep or the flock, or as a podcast host to my radio listeners, if I cannot communicate to you properly and allow you to communicate back to me properly, then we will not make any progress in anything that we're trying to achieve. You have to understand that from a natural perspective and a spiritual perspective, someone has to talk. You have to talk. Okay? And we went through that in episode 5. And then we transitioned to episode 6, 7, and 8. In episode 6, 7, and 8, we stayed right there on that topic. I love them. I love them, but my kids are lazy. And we spent a great deal of time on this because it's so important that we raise our children and this next generation not to be lazy. It's so easy with technology. It's so easy in today's society to be lazy. It's so easy just to say, hey, Siri this, or Alexa this, or hey, Google this. It's so easy to speak to technology and to become lazy. It's so easy. My wife and children got me one of those iRobots for Christmas to vacuum the floor to help out with Coco, who was our German Shepherd with the dog hair. And it's so easy for me to get my app and boop, boop, I hit it and it does this little thing and it cleans the floor, But even with all the technology and all the things that are automated with, as far as the timer on your coffee machine, the dishwasher, the laundry, everything is automated. Your car remote start, the alarm system, your cameras, all of it at the touch of our hand or even at the spoken words of our voice. So it's so easy for our children to become lazy, but you and I as parents, grandparents, overseers, guardians, have to make sure our children don't adapt lazy behavior or lazy attitudes or a lazy work ethic. We have to still do some of the old school things, if you will, such as chore lists, such as assignments around a home, extra homework if necessary, or attention to detail on their homework. If stuff is not neat, have them redo it. If their paper is not neat, make sure it's neat. Have them take time for the small things, so when it comes time in life for God to bless them with larger things, they would do it with detail. They would do it with a non-lazy attitude. But that has to be something that's taught to them, and not only taught, it has to be demonstrated. We said in these particular discussion points in episodes 6, 7, and 8 that, in my opinion, that I teach and I believe that demonstration is far more important a lot of times than what we say. I can't expect my children to make their beds in the morning if my bed's not made. And I understand that a lot of parents and overseers, guardians, whatever the case may be, feel like, well, it's my house, I pay the bill. If I don't want to make my bed and I want to make them make their bed, then yes, you have the right to do that. You do have the right to do that. I understand that. But what I teach and how my wife and I, we operate, we do things by demonstration. We make sure that our bed is made. So in turn, they will see what we're doing. And when we ask them to do it, they won't peep around the corner and say, well, mom and dad, they only make their bed, but they make us make my bed. And so when I get my house, I'm not gonna make my bed, but I'm gonna make my children make my bed. You see how that trickles down to generation. So we have to make sure that we put into our children. This is my final point here on I love them, or I love them, but my kids are lazy. We have to make sure that we take that extra moment to put into our children an attitude that is not surrounded by laziness. It is so important, I believe, for their growth and their development that they are not lazy. All right. So check out those podcasts. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is a recap of season 1. All right. We have 14 episodes. This is episode 15 from season 1. And we're recapping the topics that we discussed. All right, so once we finish with the lazy husband, the lazy wife, and the lazy kids, we transition to another topic of, is premarital counseling really necessary? And we spent 3 podcasts on this. And this podcast was derived out of the lazy man, lazy woman, lazy children topic, because the focus was so heavily centered around communication, and a lot of the couples had concern about communication with their husband and with their wives. And I said, well, have you done premarital counseling? And many people have not. So we said, is premarital counseling really necessary? And throughout the course of these particular podcasts, I basically wrapped up and said, I believe that premarital counsel is necessary. But I not only said that it was necessary, but I said it cannot be accomplished, in my opinion, in one day or 1 week. I felt as if it should be a class. It should be engaging. It should be an opportunity for the man to know his role and for the woman to know her role and for them to mutually agree on the role of the children. Okay, so therefore it takes time to work our way through this. So when we talk about communication, premarital counseling is centered around the way I teach it. It's centered around learning how to properly communicate from your role as my role as a husband and my wife's role as a wife, and giving the children their roles so they understand where they fit in the puzzle. But this takes time to be broken down to understand. Let's face some facts. A lot of men don't know their roles. A lot of women don't know their roles, biblically speaking, and they can be tweaked based upon the personality of each person. We are not robots, we are human, but a lot of conflicts come in because a lot of us as married couples simply have not been taught properly. We didn't have the counsel. We love our spouse. We worked it out and we're making it happen. But a lot of the struggle that we endure through our relationship as a marriage don't have to happen or didn't have to happen if you were simply given the right information. So we said, is premarital counseling necessary? I said yes. And furthermore, we said, can premarital counseling be taken advantage of once you're married? And I also said yes. Being married does not negate the information and the knowledge and the wisdom that comes from a premarital class. I encourage people who are married and who may even have a successful marriage. I encourage them, if they have not partaken in a premarital class, to take premarital class, to give an opportunity of a 6 to 12 week class on learning the roles as a husband and as a wife and the roles for the children. It can't hurt. All we're trying to do is grow and develop. I believe that God, when we get married, when we make that commitment, I believe God desires for us to stick to the commitment that we make, because our commitment is not only to that spouse, to our husband or our wife, our commitment is to God. We're telling God, I am committing myself to this imperfect person, and I'm making a rational decision as I've been taught to love them, to be with them through sickness and health, etc., etc. You've heard the line before, but all of this takes place because we're making a decision to stay with an imperfect person. Why would we not want information to help that relationship grow and develop? Why would we not negate that? Why would we rush to the altar and negate that? Now I understand as Christians we like to rush to the altar because we're ready to have sex and all those type of things. And listen, I feel you, okay? As Kevin on stage would say, I feel you, okay? I get it, but trust me, you rushing and you get married and you have 5 years of bliss and 10 years of hell, you're going to wish you would have spent 6 to 12 weeks in a premarital class to get the information so that you can make your marriage strong and build that strong foundation. So listen, if you're married or thinking about getting married, check out episodes 9, 10, and 11 on premarital counseling, okay? Is premarital counseling really necessary? I really believe that God put something on my heart and that in those particular podcasts, and I think it's beneficial to married and those who are potentially married, or even those who are divorced who want to remarry, okay? And lastly, episodes 12, 13, and 14, we shift from the household of a lazy man, lazy woman, lazy children. We shift from the marriage, premarital counseling. We shift from that mindset, and we shift to how should we respond to church scandals. Everything I teach, every podcast, everything I do, I'm using building blocks. First, we started with the man, making sure that the man was in position and not being lazy. Making sure the woman is in a position and not being lazy. And then making sure that the man and woman have a strong foundation for their marriage and for their relationship, as well as the children being in proper position. The next topic, when we switch to how should we respond to church scandals, this topic is built out of making sure that families who are in church, who are a part of faith, who may have been a part of church scandals, or who are trying to see the signs of church scandals, would know what to look for. Because the ultimate goal of not only Never Alone Christian Center, but Jesus Christ, is to keep families under the governing power of the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of God. So we want to make sure that we're in homes, Christian church homes, that are lifting up the name of Jesus. And we want to try to make sure that we are not involved in church scandals. And if we are, we need to know how to respond. So throughout the course of this teaching, I simply stated How should we respond to church scandals? It was very simple. We respond with forgiveness. Once we forgive the person, the people, the organization, the church, once we forgive them, then we said the second thing we have to do, we have to ask ourselves the question, can we trust them again? Can we follow them again? Can we help push the vision forward? Do we still have confidence in them? Can the relationship with you and the ministry, the person, the church, individual, can it be restored? And we said we have to separate the church from the pastor, the leaders, and we have to separate that from our emotions. All three have to be addressed. The church is the building with the believers. The pastor, overseer, bishop is his own role. And then we said our emotions have their own role. When we push them all together, it makes it hard. It becomes difficult to make a clear decision on what should we do. Should we stay? Should we go? Should we continue to follow, or should we stop following? But when you put your emotions and tied in with the leader and tied in with the believers, it makes it hard to make a decision. So we said in this particular topic, episodes 12, 13, and 14, we have to separate the church and the believers. The believers didn't hurt you. The pastor has his own role. Maybe it wasn't a pastor who hurt you. Our emotions have a role, okay? So we have to find out where did the scandal stem from, and then once we figure that out, we have to determine, are we still going to stay connected? Are we still going to follow? Are we still going to take part? Are we ready to push forward and be restored in this particular situation? Okay? Listen. I am so excited and I'm so thankful. And you can tell I'm rocking and rolling. I'm ready to go ahead and push through season 2 tonight. Thank you for rocking with me through season 1. A total of 14 episodes. Listen, shout out to you for tuning in and listening and streaming. I looked at some of the analytics and people are streaming. The numbers look good. I'm excited for a new podcast. My goal is to push for 100 consistent podcasts. I understand that it takes time to grow and develop. So rock with me. We are moving and we are grinding. So thank you once again for rocking with the Faith Unbuttoned podcast. We're going to get out of here tonight on this beautiful Friday in our region. Not sure where you're streaming from. And I just wanted to tell you to have a good weekend, to be safe, make wise decisions. And you know what? Relax. Sometimes we just got to relax and chill, put our feet up, and thank God for all that He has done for us. So with that said, don't forget, check in with us on Sunday. We're streaming our morning services. We have new time. We're streaming at 9 and we stream at noon Eastern Standard Time. We are still rocking with our subject matter of repairing broken Christians. We've been teaching on that for about 3 weeks now, and we're going to continue to push through that before we transition to our next step. Check us out, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, our website, neveralonecc.org. Like, subscribe, follow, listen, rock with us, okay? I'm your host, Pastor K, Never Alone Christian Center, or as we like to say, NAC, and also welcome to the NAC Experience. Thank you for being a part of the NAC Experience tonight for the Faith Unbuttoned podcast. Let's go.